Hey YouTube, just want to talk a little bit about the LaGuardia situation. A tragic accident. I definitely feel like it should have been a little bit more preventable. The fact that we don't have transponders on units that are on the airfield is completely absurd, especially in this day and age. The technology can't cost that much. I know there could be some contractor limitations, there could be some financial incentives that are getting the rates higher than they should be. Um, at a time for safety, we really shouldn't be profiteering. Um, and I can only speculate because I don't have that research. But I have listened to the recent NTSB briefings, and it seems like there were only two uh, controllers up in the tower. Apparently, that was a normal situation for that airport. I find that extremely inappropriate and bizarre that one of the more busy airspaces and some of the harder approaches along with JFK, they don't have more air traffic controllers, they don't have more people in the control room. The fact that we are still having a situation from the Reagan administration busting the ATC union, and we still have not staffed up. Yet, when we want to staff up ICE, we have more than enough money to get bonuses, advertise, get people in there. And I'm not saying for our traffic controllers that we need to put them in there and not train them. And it takes time. It's a hard job. I totally understand that. But the fact that we don't have people that, can at least monitor air traffic controllers in the interim to make sure that drowsiness or attentiveness is taken care of. The fact that we have zones where they're doing multiple jobs, like, it just seems outrageous that we can't get somebody, you know, from the academy into managing the ground, or something that's a little less severe, um, and communicate what's going on the field, um, and prevent some of these tragedies that have happened. I know it's not exactly identical, but the same thing pretty much happened over in DC at the beginning of this administration with a helicopter and the local controller managing the helicopter traffic and the local traffic. And the fact that you've got so much traffic over there as well, and they don't have a good grasp of what's going on, the fact that military can fly around with their transponders off, um, seems inappropriate, especially when it's not a national security situation. I totally understand moving assets around, and sometimes you don't want that to be known. But, you know, we also have to have that with safety of any kind of commercial aviation. The fact that we can't have some kind of agreement or understanding where we can have commercial in a somewhat classified aspect to know where some of the military assets are moving just to prevent any kind of incidents. What's coming to mind is I believe it was a tanker that almost hit another commercial airline, um, not that long ago, and it's just, these things have to stop. It's getting a little ridiculous. I don't understand why we're having these kind of issues, especially in America, especially with our heritage of developing this technology, with in the innovation of this technology, telling other countries how to run this kind of technology. And then it seems like we just go on the back burner, or we decide to pull money out of budgets that should be here, or we let contractors go unchecked. Um, with some of these contractors, subcontractors, any kind of the GSA, or commercial to Fed contracting, some of these things, I was in that sector. Some of these budgets and contract awards are ridiculous, where they just don't need to be. where it's either red tape or profiteering off these contractors with nobody really saying anything until the money's already spent. And the fact that we are doing all this, but then with the nuclear industry, we have so much safety, so much regulatory um, compliances that is required to make sure that everything is safe, everything's going well, that we can do it in that industry, but we can't do it in aviation. It's just preposterous. And I know it's a smaller scope. There's only so many nuclear power plant sites, and there's a lot more aviation. Then you've got certain levels where you've got hub spoke system, you've got local, you've got little regionals, you've got grass landing out in the middle of the boonies. The fact that we can't come to some kind of solution, especially the country that survived 9/11, where we were able to land almost every single plane within hours as soon as they shut down the airspace. The fact that we can do something that complicated and that drastic quickly, but we can't come up with some of these simple solutions, is just completely preposterous. And we just need to solve this. It's something that just keeps on going on and going on and going on. And Secretary Duffy is correct. There is some technological innovations that need to happen. There is things that need to be upgraded and advanced, and policies need to be changed. But there is a point of saying it and doing it. And even if we can get only a couple airports into compliancy, we just need to do it. And maybe we start a little bit on some of the smaller airports just as proof of concept. But as soon as we've got a good proof of concept, we need to put this in some of these hub locations where there is safety issues, there is life or death situations where we do have a little bit of a history of near misses or situations. The fact that NTSB, does such a good job and is such a great agency for the United States, yet most of the time we don't even listen to their recommendations. They should be having these recommendations going into law almost instantaneously. The fact that we get the reports, it goes to committee, and then it seems to die, or it's some kind of budgetary, or this is a one-off situation. Well, when is one-offs going to be too many one-offs that it becomes a major situation, where we have a head-on collision with two jumbo jets again? Like, it just seems like we need to do better. We can do better. We have the technology to do better. And something as simple as a simulcast for, like, fire emergency being heard by approach and departure. Air traffic control is doing a lot, but if we can have a simulcast where when an airplane is landing and can hear call outs or communication to the fire department on the ground, that seems like a very important thing, where if there's a situation on the ground and they're trying to manage it, the fire station and or personnel should be heard by the airline's approach and departure, and be able to make a split-second decision where if they would have heard that confirmation of crossing on an active runway, if the pilot would have heard it, they would have take off, go around, and it would have delayed the landing and maybe caused a little bit of issues. However, then we would not have had an issue. The air traffic control and the zone around are already prepped just in case there is a togo. Like, just simple little things that if a little bit more communication or a little bit more thought, we need to just start doing it. Plan and kind of think of the worst case scenario to get the best case scenario routinely. But, what do I know? I'm not in the aviation space, and, I'm obviously not writing these laws, but this seems pretty common. And I think most Americans would come to the same conclusion. So that's just my little 2 cents, and my heart goes out to anybody that was injured or fatalities, the families. Let's make them the last people to suffer from an incident like that. And I know NTSB does a really good job with that mission statement, but we need to listen to them and actually do what they say, so then we can actually solve the problem instead of having a tragedy just happen a few years down the run. Thank you.